Good morning.
Good
Everybody
morning to you.
congratulate Elena
On what? What did she do?
on her 6th closing.
Oh,
Oh
thank
my
you.
gosh, yes.
It was dope.
Yeah, you're dope.
No, you're dope.
Well, I know that.
I know you know that. It was Brian Smith. It was my second deal I bought from him.
So, Elena, what do you think is the difference between you, you've been in here since November versus somebody who's been in here 2 years and hasn't done a deal?
Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
Well, yeah.
I think it's action taking for one.
Which leads to what? What does that stem from?
What
Like
is
lack
it?
of action taking.
Fear. People are scared, but I mean, this is going to tie into everything that you've talked about, right? Is that it's not about knowledge. It's about how you leverage things, right? Resources, people, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, like use people, but I mean, I'm really excited to release my YouTube channel because it's the Elena method. The thing that I'm coining is that it's helping and connecting people are the keys to success. And so that's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about, right? Is like, I'm not exceptionally smart. I'm not exceptionally, whatever, but I'm highly resourceful. And I think that's one of your superpowers as well, right? Is like, you're a problem solver. Like, I don't get stuck in things. I like to think outside of the box. Like I'm a closer in my own right as a social worker, right? I deal with people in pain, like literally like doctors, nurses, like all these specialists will be talking to a patient. They're like, I can't get to this patient at all. I can't get to the mom. I can't get to the dad. They like send Elena in. And I'll
send Elena.
Send her in. So yeah, it's thank you for allowing me to do this for our community. And I mean, it's like family therapy time, group therapy time. And it's incredibly powerful for me, as the person that gets to facilitate it. I get to see the growth, right? And I think I know that how special and powerful that is to see when people grow. It's an addiction, right? I mean, you just to get to see that growth and that like they overcome that little hump,
Yeah,
I
coined it on Steve Treng's show a couple of years, like 3 years ago. He was like, why are you doing all this? This is before I was a coach. I was just like, I value emotional income more than I value finance. This was literally a year and a half before I was even approached to become a coach.
Yeah.
And he's like, why you're around town just closing deals for other people. And he's like, where does this come from? I go, I just love the emotional income and how it makes me feel. It's like my heroin.
Yeah.
Right? I've never done drugs. I've never drank before. I don't have any real vices besides probably sour candy, probably. But my vice is that I genuinely love the emotional income of seeing that impact in other people. And it becomes addicting because it does release chemicals in your body that we are meant to feel. And that's the great thing about this community is it gives you way more opportunities in a trusted, amazing, filtered environment to be more of a go-giver.
Right.
And so what's fun to watch is from the very beginning of starting the mentorship, I've told this story multiple times. I fought with the people who approached me and who I ended up partnering with. I fought them for 3 months and I just kept telling them, no, like, unless we do it my way, I want to have nothing to do with it. And they're like, well, what is your way? I'm like, it has to be a community. It has to be a group of people that I look forward to seeing because I see other coaches out there that get aggravated and put a limit on the time frame that people are allowed in the community. You've been in the community now, Elena, 8 months probably?
Yeah.
So think about this, guys. Like, it took Elena probably 2 months to really build momentum to like start finding out who she was in this environment. And could you guys imagine that 2 months ago she would have been booted out of this community? No way. And I saw this vision 3 years ago before we started crafting this. And the people who I partnered with were like, you're crazy. Nobody's done this. I'm like, yeah. And that's why there's no resources like this. And that's why a lot of people are struggling, is because for me, what I get off on is being around other people that I like being around. I'm a social creature. I think a lot of us are social creatures. And so I was like, how can I create a filtered environment of other people that I can trust 99.9% of the time.
Right.
Because what happened to me is that emotional income that I was seeking basically my whole life, I was investing my time and energy into the improper people because I didn't have a good filter. I actually have a horrible filter. I had to go create that filter with my partners. That's one of the things they bring to the table is as we filter students into the program, we really do a good job of finding amazing people, as we can all tell, right? Either people who have the potential to be go-givers because they have it inside of them, or people like Elena that were like, it's beaming out of them that they're ready to lead right now. Like they've shed some of the mindset things, and now that like onion has fully been peeled, and now you get to be who you really were meant to be. So that emotional income, I think, is one of the things that drives me the most and wants me to just keep giving more and more and more, because I'm looking for my next heroin hit, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah. I think what you've built, though, that the thing that's unique is the synergy behind it, right? It's Brian, for example. I'll use Brian as a great example. I got to talk to him for about an hour and a half last week and just helping him overcome some things. And then he stepped out of his comfort zone and he led a Zoom, and he was like, I have some free lead gen. He started in January and he sold me my first deal, or a sub 2 deal. And then he sold me a second deal. And he's like, I think that he's closed maybe 7, I think. Is it, Brian? In a matter of 5-6 months, right? And if it was free lead gen. And I was like, Brian, you gotta share this. And he's like, I don't know. And we're just talking about things. And the beauty behind what we get to experience, right, on this end of helping people is it's like, I get to see things and I'm like, wait, how come you don't see what I see? Right. And you have a gift of being able to not only show it, but draw it out of them, right? We don't create the power that's in them, right? I personally don't. I think you definitely have the ability. I don't personally create it, right? I don't personally create it. I can see it. And then I'm just trying to like cut the stuff that's in their minds that's kind of blocking them from seeing that. And I get to like try to help pull them out of that. And so for Brian, it was like, he texted me, he was just like, he did the Zoom and people were like thanking him, like helping, and he was helping people and he was like, oh my gosh. And so when people ask us like, how are you guys such go-givers? I'm like, it's because of that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I get to, sorry.
I got a text from Ingrid this morning. I got a lot of texts from a lot of people because that social media post I put out yesterday on, entitlement is a disease and gratitude is the cure.
Yeah.
A lot of people started texting me like, man, I don't tell you enough how much you have impacted my life. And I get a lot of women actually DM me and say, I see a different man in my husband. You saw something that I didn't see. I was starting to lose faith in him. Wow. And he just needed a friend. It didn't, and what I loved about that was like, didn't say he needed a leader. It was like he needed a friend that cared about him and loved him. And, a lot of it comes back to like childhood and how I was raised and my environment. My mom has 12 children. You think she's much of a nurturer?
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of that from my mom, just eternal love, the eternal love, just all that comes from my mama, And so I get a lot of DMs from women that are like, I see a different man in my husband. He needed a friend. You were that friend. You made him believe that there's something more for him because his bosses or other people he's around are constantly belittling his superpowers.
Right.
So that he doesn't see those superpowers himself, breaks away from them. They no longer benefit from all his hard work because he's now realized who he really is, right? They also say we go on more dates. We have more sex. We have better relationships with our children. Like all of those things. It's crazy. Like this is not just about real estate. Real estate intertwines in it, but I'm connecting better. Then I get husbands that are like, dude, I'm a different person. I'm like, no. You're not a different person. You are that person. You're just peeling back the layers of the crap that you've accumulated, right? Exactly. Whether it's environment or some trauma or, you might have a good friend. Like, the Jay-Z song, he says, get the dust off your shoulder. Essentially what I do, and you guys will see this, it's when I go to meetups, one of the main things I do is I grab people by their shoulders and I touch them on their shoulders because I remember how that felt when Bethany Willis came to me and touched me on my shoulder. And it goes back to that Jay-Z song. It's like, dust that dirt off your shoulder. Our job is constantly like dusting dirt off each other's shoulders. Like, hey, you're way shinier than you believe you are. Let me dust some of this off of you. You know, what I love about you, many, many things I love about you from the moment I met you, you have an energy that's beaming. Like that's the word I would use for you, is beaming energy. It's just unbelievable. But what I love about you is you have some of the powers I have, which because I've dusted enough of the dirt off my own shoulders, it's not as foggy, and I can now see the beautifulness in other people, which is great. And I can help them dust it off. So like Carolyn and Myron, when they came to my house in from Dallas, I saw Carolyn for like what she really is. And I don't think she saw herself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was only, I don't know, what was that, Carolyn? Like 9-10 months ago? Maybe not that, maybe 8 months. And
September.
And I could, that's the amazing thing, is that I've gone through enough mindset stuff, still going through a lot of stuff, which we can maybe have time to talk about today, that I've been through enough that I can now start seeing the good in other people and adjusting them and saying, hey, this is what worked for me and this might work for you. And I've seen this work for other people. And so really it's our responsibility that as you go through that, this is, I think, one of my biggest challenges is that you get leaders in this community. Like Carolyn has become a leader. But here's what I love about her is that I think she's just starting to see in herself what I see. She's just starting. She's maybe 5% of what I see, right?
Yeah.
But what's great about Carolyn is she turns around and says, okay, well, I see about 5% of myself, what Pace sees in me, but I'm going to give that 5% right back into the community, and I'm going to help other people see that 5% of themselves. And Elena, you do that masterfully. You know, it's an interesting method, right, that you've coined. It's a method that I've done for a long time, and I'm so glad you coined it, because it is the Elena method. It's truly helping and connecting people and getting that dirt off other people's shoulders so they can see themselves truly. And what does that mean is that now we're a herd animal, right? We love being in a herd. And so do you think Brian loves you with all his heart?
Yes, but because I do also.
Yeah, of course. And so it's interesting is
with that deal.
Other people are sitting there thinking, oh, I just did a deal. I did a deal. It's like, Elena's like, I changed somebody's life. I was a sounding board for somebody. I was a this, and I was, whatever. You do it so great. And this is a figure of speech because I think we truly do, but we don't deserve you.
Gosh. Shit. Don't start. I'm gonna fucking lose it.
And the other thing too is like a lot of people go through their lives working hard, going through stress, going through, anxiety, waking up in the middle of the night. For me, it was this muscle in my back, my rhomboid muscle. I've probably gone to a masseuse, a chiropractor, I don't know, for 10 years. Wow. It's depleted over the last 3 years or so, but it was a 10-year problem where I was just so stressed out all the time. And here's what I found out going through some of my own therapy and doing my own things, that I found that the reason my back and my muscles were so tense is because I felt like I had something inside of me I needed to give to other people so much, but I didn't know where to pour it into. Right. And so I'm stressed out all the time, and I want to talk about these things that I went through and and the people that I was pouring it into were the people that ended up filing bankruptcy on me and changing the course of my life forever. And I poured my time, my energy, and my soul into improper vehicles, and I didn't see a return on that investment. And so what would happen is I would wake up in the middle of the night, and it just wasn't living a great existence privately as a man. Like most men just kind of like shell up and they go into a room and they're just like deal with it themselves. Right. But it wasn't until I started formulating the vision of this community that I was like, I need to have an outlet, and I need to have a place that I can truly help people. And it started about a year before the community was started. I just started driving around and helping people, taking them on appointments and saying, what does this look like to literally forget about myself and just pour it into people that don't even see the good in themselves? And so that's where it started. And all of a sudden it was the weirdest thing. My stress started going away and I started having a lot more fun. And I wanted to, instead of me forcing myself to wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, I now was excited. It was like Christmas morning every single morning. I can't wait to get in front of that Christmas tree. Or like when you get a brand new outfit to go to school with in high school, it's like, I can't wait to throw on that outfit. That's how I feel about my life now. And I think the majority of it is I'm not just living my purpose, but I'm seeing a lot of other people live their purpose inside of this community. I mean, how many leaders do you think we have that are truly making impact? Over 500 to 1,000 people are turning around and reinvesting back into a community that is lifelong, trusted. Like, think about that. And I see Carolyn right there, beautiful, amazing woman. I see her up on my screen, which is why I keep referencing her. But her and Myron are doing these meetups in DFW and like tirelessly pouring time and energy into people that probably have a percentage of a chance that they might never do a deal. But the intention isn't always, I'm trying to do a deal for you. Sometimes it's just, I want to improve your life and let you know that there's people here for you, because every other aspect of life I found, it's challenging, man. It's challenging out there. Your job is challenging. Your friends from high school, those relationships are challenging. The relationships with your college buddies and all that kind of stuff are challenging. Your coworkers at your job are challenging. And nobody really has a safe space that you can truly be yourself. And that was the community. I thought, how can I create a community where I can be myself? I can tell the jokes I want to tell, and I can attract the type of people that are okay with 90% of my jokes. And where can I pour out my creative flow of how I do real estate and how I talk to sellers and know that people aren't going to steal things from me? The thing that really bothered me was I would teach people and help people outside of a community that was filtered with no rules, and people would, go back to that barbaric phase of themselves of like, oh, you dropped this, I'm just going to take it for myself. And the community had these guidelines that was, hey guys, it's perfectly okay for you to take my seller calls, and it's perfectly okay for you to do this as long as you take them, learn from them, and then pour back into the community and amplify and amplify and amplify. And I think that would be one of 10 or 15 things that I would say set us apart from everybody else, is that everybody is here trying to amplify this community instead of tearing it down
or taking for themselves. Yeah. Which is part of tearing it down.
Yeah. And another part of it is that I see other influencers, right? I hang out with a lot of influencers, a lot of them, obviously having somebody else outside, just saying like, you went a bit different path than other people went. The path that everybody else goes is like financial. And that's the whole goal, is like every conversation I have with these big influencers, it's like, how much money? And those things are important, obviously, right? You got to be in alignment with money, and you got to attract money and those types of things as well. But the reason why you do this Saturday in and Saturday out, and sometimes sporadically throughout the week, and then have hundreds of phone calls on a monthly basis with people you've never spoken to before, is because you have a level of care that other people don't. It's not because you're being paid to do it. It's not because, somebody begged you to do it or obligated you to do it. It's because your level of care is beyond what other people's is. That's it. And you care so much that you want to show people how much you care, not tell them, you want to show them. And so for me, like, those are the people I want to be aligned with. I want to be I consider you a friend. There's other people that I love and adore in this world, but I don't crave to talk to them, right? Like I crave to talk to Jerry Norton. I crave talking to Elena Tang. I crave talking to Jamil, people with golden hearts. And so what's amazing in this really very transparent day and age is that the people who care the most will always rise to the top. And the people who don't will filter themselves out. So I'm grateful for this community, because when I drew this all out, I drew it out and I said, the students in this program will become family members in this community, and then they will become leaders at a higher level than I could ever reach, because they have skills and traits about them that I don't currently have. And I didn't write down Elena Tang on my whiteboard when I drew this out, but I knew that person was needed. And It took a while. It took a while for a leader to step up, and you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know what you were doing in the sense of like, I'm going to run a Saturday Zoom every week and I'm going to do this and put myself out there. You didn't know that that's how you were going to serve. You just said, I'm going to serve. I don't know exactly how that is, but I'm going to serve. And you freaking did it.
Carolyn was the one and only person that attended my mindset Zoom, the first one that I did. And
That's
I was using Kirk's account, and I was just like, I don't know, like, just going to put it out there. I heard a need, right? Mindset. So I did it, and it was it was Kirk who was attending, but he was just being nice, like a warm body on the other end. And then it was Carolyn, and there was another person that was at work, but she couldn't participate. And that's like our heart connecting with her. It was like literally just like this, and I think the thing too about building the level of relationships and community is, why aren't we doing deals together? But it's like also like, I want to know the depths of people's pain and beauty. Right. I think to me, that's the vulnerability. That's how you really build that bond.
It is how you build the bond. And also, like, you can give people homework, right? You can tell people what to do. But at the end of the day, if they have a mindset issue, think about this. Like I've told the story about Robert Allen. After 29 years of this man at a very high level, 29 years after writing some of the best books in real estate, traveling the world and teaching tens of thousands of people, after 29 years of that, he says, I wish I could go back and teach about mindset, because 99% of people I taught didn't ever do anything with it because their mindset kept them from taking action on what I taught.
Right.
And, it's the mindset of, and, cut me off if you have an idea beyond this, but it's like, I'm not worthy of success. I don't have skills. What are people going to think of me? A lot of self-worth issues, a lot of victim issues as well. Like they watch their parents blame everybody else but themselves. And so they think everything should just be given to them, right? There's all these issues that I could give you all the secrets in the playbook. I could give them all to you, but you're not going to do anything with it because your mindset's either screwed up or it doesn't exist, right? That's the other thing too, is like mindset is not just something you fix. A mindset is something you add to as well.
Yeah. Develop.
Yeah. And add new things. And what's crazy is every time I get to a new level of mindset, I feel a moment of regret for about 10 seconds. And the regret I have is, oh my gosh, I regret not working hard enough to have this current mindset 10 years ago, because I would have been so much further ahead. I would have had twice as many employees relying on me. I would have had twice as many assets for my family and the legacy. I would have had all the things, but that's why I dwell on it for about 10 seconds and I move on. Yeah. But it's more to solidify, like, okay, well, you can either bitch about it.
Yeah.
That you didn't know it 10 years ago, or your dad didn't teach it to you, or the coach you paid $50,000 to didn't teach it to you, or whatever. Or you can realize entirely it's your fault and you weren't working hard enough to develop your mindset. And so the equation is to go work hard and to keep developing your mindset to the next plateau, the next plateau, the next plateau. And, I see things like delegate, offload, systems, processes. And so people are like, oh yeah, like technically that makes a lot of sense. But emotionally, or from a mindset standpoint, they'll never utilize any of those really interesting things they're learning because they're not ready for it. And mindset's critical. Mindset is absolutely freaking critical for me. Like my biggest mindset when I was in my 20s, I'm grateful for the biggest differentiating factor, I would say, of why am I special? I know I'm special, right? That's another mindset thing I had to break through, is like, I know I'm special. I used to tell people like, no, I'm just a regular. No, I'm not. I'm not a regular guy. I dusted enough of the dirt off my shoulders. I'm not regular. I'm special. And every one of you guys have the ability to either A, get to that point, or B, surpass that. So in my 20s, I didn't believe I was special. And I would listen to other people that are like, wait your turn. Wait your turn. I had a guy named Rick. Okay. I get off my mission. I'm Mormon. So I get off my mission and I'm 21 years old and I go work for this guy's construction company. And my work ethic was beyond anything he'd ever seen. So that goes back to the one biggest differentiating factor I have in my life is I love working. I love it. It is I wake up in the morning and I'm so grateful. I see a shovel and I want to dig something. I don't even care what the hole is. I'll just give me that shovel. I'll dig a hole in your yard, whatever it is. I just love working. My parents gave that to me. My dad made work fun for me, and I'm grateful for my father for doing that. My dad would take me to work with him. So many people have this thing of like, well, I need to balance my work life. I saw Carolyn and Myron taking their kids to the title company and taking them. Like, I love that. That makes me like, it reminds me of my dad saying, all right, jump in the truck, buddy. Come on, Pace, jump in the truck. Right. And I remember the sound of my dad's old F-150. Ford family, as you guys know. I remember looking down at my dad's floorboards in his truck, seeing that he'd never vacuumed that damn truck in 10 years. Because it's a work truck, right? And then I remember my dad asking me like, what are we having for breakfast today? Like he'd get me excited about letting me choose. Somehow, some way he manipulated me into, McDonald's breakfast burritos because they're 99 cents or whatever. But my dad made me feel special when we went to work, and it made me excited about going to work. And so if you guys are out there, it's what I do with my children. I honestly, I value traditional education very little, except for the social aspect of it. Traditional education, unless you're going down a very specific path, I think for the most part is worthless. I think if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a psychologist, somebody that's where you're going, I think traditional education is not worth most people's time. So I spent so much time going to school and doing all this stuff. And my dad just was like, work hard, work hard, work hard. And I'm glad I learned that. I learned to love work. Love it. I love it. There's never a day where I don't work. Never a day. You'll never catch me not working because I love it.
It's not work to you though. Work in the, the sense that other people think.
It's a game I get to play with my friends.
Yeah.
That's the mindset shift for so many people. It's a game I get to play with my friends. And you look back in high school and you look back in when you had really great moments of your childhood and you'd show up late to, getting home, your curfew's 10 o'clock, you'd show up at 11, you'd be, I've just lost track of time. Guys, I lose track of time all the time. I know I'm 15 minutes late, but I'm having so much fun that I justify why I'm 15 minutes late to this or that or whatever else, because I'm just having fun with the homies. I'm rolling with the homies. That's it. That's all I'm doing all day long, every day. So beyond that, in my 20s, what I struggled with was I thought the equation was just working hard and then investing my time and my energy into other people's businesses. And while I do see there's tremendous value there, and I learned a lot of things and I, became, structured in some aspect, and I could probably go through and list off 100 things that I learned every single month working for somebody else. So I don't negate that. What I'm saying is I thought that was the equation. I thought the equation was work hard, build somebody else's business. One day you'll have a shot. One day you'll have a chance. And it's interesting, like Elena, same thing with you. You're in your 30s?
I'm 40.
Okay, you and I are same age. So you worked for other people for a long time. You still do, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see, like, when you just go and invest in yourself for 6 months and you do it in the right environment, it's like, oh my gosh, I've become more wealthy, more everything in 6 months in the right environment working for myself than I did for the last 20 years working for other people.
Yeah.
And nobody showed me that equation. Nobody showed me that equation. And I didn't think it was possible. And so this guy that filed bankruptcy on me, that was me doing that to myself. I was investing and pouring my heart out, my energy that I had, I was seeking emotional income, which I'm glad I still do, because that could have turned me off. I could have been like, F everybody, everybody's out to get me. Instead, I realized, no, I need to have a filtered environment that allows me to do all that. So I think that's one of the most special things about this community is that I can be myself. I can be myself. And Elena, you've spent time around my home. You've stayed at my home. Carolyn's spent time at my home. I'm not really different when I'm off these Zooms. I'm the same person. I might cuss a little bit more, So for the same people, like Alejandro Alvarez or Jen Shelton or LT or Marlon, like think about Mindset Marlon. Marlon's always been a badass. It's just that he didn't have an environment to amplify that and to practice that in. And so this environment allows that to happen. So a couple of things I would give to people as advice. What's funny, guys, is Elena just closed her 6th deal without having to cold call sellers. Okay. Without having to run a CRM. I don't think you have a CRM, do you?
I don't even know what a CRM. I'm just kidding. I know what a CRM is, but I don't have one.
She's probably never opened a CRM, right? A customer relationship manager. She's closed her 6th deal in basically 6 months of applying the Elena method. It's pretty amazing. And, you know, that starts compounding, and your cash flow will start compounding. Your relationships will start compounding and all that kind of stuff. And Elena, when you started, you were like, I don't know how to serve, but I want to serve. I don't know what I can do, but I want to do something. I know very little about real estate other than houses are awesome and you can cash flow and the basic things that we all know. And here you are half a year later, you become well-known in this community because of the level of servitude and love that you invest. So the question I have is, like, if I'm a brand new student, right? Elena, I'm brand new. I'm a month, maybe 2 months in. Is it possible for me to be an Elena Tang, or is like Elena has like taken that throne? There's no other room for me, and there's nothing I can do because Elena's taken that.
That's why I wanted to start the YouTube channel and coin this term to help people to understand, like, it's kind of like a lifestyle that you could live, right? It's serving and it's helping people. It's giving more value than you're taking. Right. It's kind of that posture. I didn't create it. Oh my God. Like, I didn't create it. Marlon and I were talking last night, and I was thinking, like, what do people want to know about pace? Because I think that you've become an elevated figure, obviously, right? But almost to a certain extent, it's like you're almost kind of like this, like, godly like figure, right? And it's not just the celebrity, it's like the godliness, you know? And I think that what I don't want people to lose out on is the ability to draw out, like, what you've learned and experienced and what you're trying to teach us. Because I hear a lot of people that are like, I'm not like Pace. I'm like, well, you're not like Pace, but you're you, right? And so what I was thinking, Marlon and I were talking last night, because I was just like nervous as hell, you know, interviewing you, and we were just talking, and Marlon's gotten to know you, obviously, way better than I have. And so I think that a few of your greatest superpowers is your level of empathy and your generosity. And we were talking about how, for me, I know for sure, for me, my empathy comes from my pain. And I think a lot of people, that's how empathy is developed, right? Is you have pain, and then when you see someone else experience pain, you're like, oh, maybe it's not exactly the same experience, right? But it's like, oh gosh, that person's in pain. I've experienced pain before too, right? And then that's literally what empathy is that I can share that experience of you having pain, and I've also experienced pain. Right. Sympathy is kind of like, oh, I feel bad for you. You know, it's kind of pity. Right. But empathy is like that deeper connection. And I think that your superpower is that you've created and you've transformed your pain into a superpower of empathy and generosity. Right. And I feel like this is where, like, I will fight so hard and I will work so hard to help people to understand that they have a superpower underlying in them, right? So I look at you as like Professor Xavier. I love X-Men, right? So like, you're Professor X. Don't shave your head.
Hold on, I still have hair, guys.
I know you have a good head of hair. Don't shave your head. So I look at you as Professor X, right? And it's like and we're, you know, we're your X-Men Academy, right? And so, but you didn't. So Professor X, right? He didn't create the superpowers in everyone. It was birthed in them, right? And so it's like, but you're training us to use it for good, as opposed to, you know, going to, you know, the dark side. What was that, like, what was the other guy's name, the bad guy? I forgot his name.
Magneto.
Yeah Magneto, right? So like you're trying to like not let us go to that side. The beauty though, right, is that we have that superpower in us. And it's painful. Like if you watch the X-Men series, it's painful for them. It's like, I don't want this. I'm so different. This is like a bad thing. I'm a freak, whatever. And I'm like, no, but just use it for good.
Yeah.
You have this goodness in you. So I think I see your superpower, but I think so. What I would love, right?
That's a great analogy, by the way, because if you think about it, Xavier, they go out in a lot of these movies and they go out and they talk to these up and coming superheroes. And
right.
these superheroes are like, no, I'm nothing special.
Right.
Or leave me alone or whatever. Right. That
right.
whole thing. And then Xavier doesn't put that superpower in them. He pulls the layers off of them and they see it for themselves and they go, oh my gosh. And then they see themselves standing there in their uniform and they're like, oh, wow, I am something special. Right.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy.